What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Throughout the history of Hearthstone, there's been loads of decks that have dominated the meta across multiple patches. As we go through the list, we'll be ranking each deck by how strong they were at the time and how hard they dominated the meta. Anyways, let's get started. At number 10, we actually have Grim Patron Warrior. After the Blackrock Mountain release, Grim Patron Warrior arose as the clear front runner of the meta. It's a combo deck that gets to win a ton against aggro since it's played on the Warrior class, and the Grim Patron combos to clear your entire opponent's board while also summoning a full board yourself is insane versus some mid-range and slower decks. The raw power of this deck and lack of bad matchups has caused the deck to shine through quite a bit, and it's held back a little bit by how difficult it is to play, but in the hands of a skilled player, Grim Patron Warrior is extremely strong. At number 9, we have Hunter with Undertaker. The best Undertaker version of the Hunter deck existed right after the release of Naxxramas and after the nerf to Soulfire. After the nerf to Soulfire, mid-range Hunter rose up to be extremely powerful and dominate the meta by being the premier aggro deck. Undertaker openings were insane, and you would often win 1 out of every 10 games or so for free just because you opened up with that card. The early game was unmatched, and decks had such a hard time dealing with it that it eventually caused Undertaker to be nerfed to the ground. At number 8, we have OTK Warrior. Back in a time when Warsong Commander gave all of your minions charge, a combo warrior deck arose where you would use Molten Giants and Youthful Brewmasters to OTK your opponent in one turn, often from 30 life or higher since you could easily do 40 damage or more in one turn if you drew all of the combo pieces. And being a warrior, you would be great at stalling out and dealing with aggressive decks most of the time. You would just stall out the game until you drew the combo pieces and then OTK your opponent to a point where it almost had no counterplay, and it was extremely difficult to do anything versus the incredibly powerful combo deck. At number 7, we have Handlock. After Naxxramas was released and before Leroy got nerfed, the Leroy Power Overwhelming Faceless Manipulator combo for 20 damage made Handlock so powerful since it would have a finisher and all it would have to do was taunt and go face, and the deck was so easy to stall out and combo to win the game. Handlock has always been one of the strongest tournament decks, and with Sludge Belchers, the deck succeeded a ton and was the strongest control deck in the game for an extremely long time. Handlock's popularity caused everyone to start playing big game Hunter in their decks, as well as cards like Black Knights and more Silences, and so the deck dominated and caused everyone to change their decks for a really long time. And honestly, most players were reluctant to fit those cards in their decks anyways, and so it became extremely powerful. At number 6, we have Freeze Mage. Back in beta, all of the freeze cards costed 1 mana less, so Frost Nova was 2 mana, Cone of Cold was 3 mana, and Blizzard was 5 mana to play. This allowed the deck to stall out and play ice blocks much easier overall. Those super powerful stall cards coupled with some great removal like Doomsayer and Flamestrike, as well as tons of draw to dig for the Alexstrasza combo, and the Freeze Mage deck totally dominated the ranks and tournaments to the point where the deck got nerfed quite hard and still remains one of the strongest options, especially in tournaments. At number 5, we have Control Warrior. This one brings us way back actually, to a time where Alexstrasza was a lot stronger than it is now. Back then, way back in early closed beta and alpha as well, Alexstrasza would remove armor, as well as setting the opponent's health to 15, and the Charge Warrior spell costed 0 mana. So you would play Gorehowl on the previous turn, and then on the next turn use Alexstrasza and Charge for a guaranteed 1-turn kill, even if the opponent had like a million armor. And this caused the Control Warrior deck to be ridiculously powerful, since the Warrior class as a whole can stall so well and survive the early game quite effectively, that having a much more reliable finisher versus Control that really just didn't have any counterplay totally dominated the meta and gave us a monster of a deck that caused many cards in it to get nerfed. At number 4, we have a different version of Hunter from before Naxxramas, when Unleash the Hounds costed 2 mana, and Starving Buzzard was a 2 mana 2/1 creature. Hunter has always been balanced around the fact that they don't really have great card draw, but with Leroy costing 4 mana, you could pull off crazy Unleash the Hounds combos, while still refilling your hand and drawing tons of cards, while hitting your opponent for a bunch of damage. And if they ever played more than 2 minions, you pretty much just won the game since you wouldn't need Leroy for your combo. At the time, since Zoo had been nerfed on the same patch, the meta essentially became play Hunters or play a direct counter to Hunters, and those were literally the only options until Hunter got nerfed. The entire meta revolved around the deck at the time, and for good reason too. Imagine a Hunter deck that literally never runs out of cards until they fatigue. It's just so difficult to beat, since all of the weaknesses of the class get pretty much thrown out the window. At number 3, we have Face Spell Damage Druid. Now, just like the Warrior deck, this Druid deck is really old, from way back in very early beta and alpha. But back then, all of the Druid spells like Wrath and Starfire could target your opponent's face, as well as cards like Savagery would deal damage equal to your hero's attack power to all enemy minions. So clearing the board for Druids was way easier, and coupled with some nice spell damage creatures like a stronger Dalaran Mage, and cards like Claw and Bite, which gave 3 and 6 attack power respectively instead of giving some armor, and you would just go face with everything while clearing your opponent's board too, and with multiple silences, finish them off with a combo on turn 8 with a 5 mana Force of Nature if you hadn't won already. The deck was quite ridiculous and caused about 10 or more cards to be nerfed eventually. And at number 2, we have Zoo Warlock. Back in the day, Blood Imp was a 1/1 creature and would give all of your minions +1 health, coupled with a Dark Iron Dwarf that gave a permanent buff, as well as a Shattered Sun Cleric and Defender of Argus that were 3/3 creatures, and the really powerful Warlock hero power. This insanely consistent and powerful board control deck revolutionized the Hearthstone tempo game and completely dominated the meta for a long time, and remained relevant and most of the time dominant all the way from beta to when GVG was released. The reign and dominance of Zoo in the meta has to this day remained unmatched, and Zoo continues to be a super powerful deck, faltering only occasionally to other overpowered decks on this list, taking control for a few short weeks to a month or so until they got nerfed. At number 1, we have Miracle Rogue. Way back in early beta, about the time of the Druid face deck, a large amount of the rogue cards were so insane. Backstab could hit any minion, undamaged or not, Shiv costed 1 mana, and Van Cleef was a 1/1 with stealth. In addition, the Defias Ringleader was a 2/3 creature, Conceal costed 0 mana, and Headcrack costed 2 mana, and the kicker is that their hero power would give their weapon +1 attack for that turn if they already had a weapon equipped. With Leroy combos and Gadgets and Auctioneer, the deck was not short of draw options as well as finishing combos, and if you ever drew a Van Cleef early in the game, you pretty much just won that game for free. And with crazy removal cards like Blade Flurry and Fan of Knives, as well as the much stronger hero power, the deck had an insane early game as well as fantastic combo mid and late game finishers. The deck just overall had such an insane amount of value and power through its draw that it crushed all the competition and takes my number 1 spot for the best Hearthstone deck of all time.
Hey guys, it's me, Jeremy. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, definitely make sure to hit that like button so I can tell, as well as you can check me out on Facebook and Twitter at Gaming Curios. And check me out on Twitch too, I do weekly streams. And if you really enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, as well as you can check out some of my other content up above. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.